So if you're thinking about lowering your BMW, whether it's an M3 or whatever it is, there's a few things that I've learned that I want to share with you guys. At this point, I've owned a few cars, I've lowered a few cars. The one most recently I did was my G80 M3 on some AST lowering springs, but I've also done my 435 on KW coilovers, and I've also done my F30 sitting right over there on H&R lowering springs. For those of you who are OGs on my channel, you'll actually remember I did a whole video about the F30 and why I lowered it on lowering springs and not coilovers and all that type of stuff. So if you haven't watched that one already, I would highly recommend it. However, with something like a G80 M3 specifically, there's a lot more variation, a lot of different reasons to lower it the way that you'd want to lower it. So again, to reiterate, this is lowered on AST lowering springs. Just lowering springs, not a Haas kit or anything like that, not coilovers, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I got a lot of questions when I lowered the car. In that video, I basically just focused on the installation process. I mean, here's just a quick look at like the fit and finish of everything. Obviously, these are aftermarket wheels. However, the wheel gap should be pretty consistent. So overall, it's actually a really nice ride height. There's the rear, and then here's a quick look at the front. So overall, I'm actually really happy with the ride height of these springs. But like I was saying, guys, in that other video, I just really focused on the installation and all that. I had a whole bunch of questions on Instagram. In that video, people are asking, you know, why I went with springs, why didn't I do a Haas kit, how's the ride quality, all those types of things. So I'm gonna try my best to answer all of your questions. But let's start with the main one, and that's why did I go with lowering springs? Because I mentioned in that F30 video, I said it's a cheaper way to go. So why did I go the cheap way on something like a G80 M3? All right, guys, let's just cover the basis real quick. When you're lowering your G80 M3 specifically, and you know, any car that's kind of similar to it, you have a few different options. One, you can obviously do lowering springs, which is the cheapest option, maybe about like $300 to $400 for a good set. You can do coilovers, which is another legitimate option. And then you can also do a Haas kit. If you guys don't know, it's HAS, which stands for height adjustable springs, which is pretty cool. However, I don't think it's the route to go. Now that might sound funny because you would think it would actually be the better option, but I actually disagree. In terms of installation, when you're installing lowering springs, you obviously have to take apart your strut assembly. So you have to take apart your top hat and all that. You have to use spring compressors, or you can use the car like I did to basically do like a cheat code to get the spring out of there. However, if you're gonna do a Haas kit, what you have to do in addition to that is take off like the perch of the strut, basically like this like piece that the spring will actually sit on. I haven't done that myself, but I watched a few videos about it. I gotta say, guys, it does not look easy. It looks to be a pain, and if you ever want to go back to stock, I don't know what that process looks like, because you literally have to like hammer it out of there. So the installation process is a lot more work, especially if you guys are considering DIYing this thing. Also, guys, a Haas kit is significantly more expensive. Again, lowering springs could be like $300 to $400. A Haas kit could be like $1,000 to $1,200. That's a lot more money. I mean, maybe you're just rich like that, and that's fine. But personally, I don't think it's worth it, because again, lowering springs, although it is a fixed height, I personally think this is the perfect height. Like, even if I had a Haas kit, I want to adjust it past this. I know there's still some wheel gap, and I know some people might not like that, but honestly, guys, it's really not that bad. And then also, I'm already kind of struggling with this front lip and this ride height. So honestly, I would not go any lower than this. I kind of want to go a little higher, to be honest with you. So in that case, like, why would I spend more money, have a more difficult installation for that adjustable spring when I won't even want to adjust these fixed springs? Like, to me, it's almost a no-brainer. Now, the next thing is coilovers, because that's the traditional way, at least us car guys know, of like lowering your car. Now, the thing is with the G80 M3 and a lot of other cars is this car has adjustable dampers. So one of my favorite things about the G80 M3 is it can kind of do the best of all worlds, in my opinion. So we're just gonna fire it up. Sorry guys, it's a little loud. Let's use the handy dandy daily valve controller to quiet that thing down. Yeah, with this car, you can go to setup and basically adjust your chassis from comfort to sport plus, and basically make the car go from a nice, comfortable daily driver to something that can really tackle the canyon roads or windy roads, whatever. And then if you guys didn't know, on a G80 M3, you can then set those like your M1 and M2 buttons, so you can kind of change everything on a press of a button, which is really cool. So that's the upside of having adjustable dampers. It's nothing new, it's nothing revolutionary, it's nothing specific to a G80 M3, but it's just something that this car has, so something I took into consideration when thinking about how I want to lower this car, because if you put coilovers, you're gonna lose that. I mean, yeah, you'll have like the height adjustable aspect of it, and you can probably even adjust the dampening depending on the coilovers you get. But I mean, this, you can adjust the dampening, you know, whenever you want. Now, coilovers, I wouldn't rule out as an option. Personally, if you're gonna go for some like really high-end coilovers and you just wanna like track your car, that might be a good option. But if you're just gonna like street drive your car and, you know, go to car shows, enjoy it on, you know, canyon roads and stuff like that, I don't feel like you need coilovers. The suspension is already so good. The springs just pretty much maintain the suspension, except make it lower. It does adjust it a little bit, which we'll get into a little later when I take the car out for a drive. But just overall, guys, personally, I think coilovers on a car like this, you only need them if you're gonna track the car or like really go hardcore with the car and you just want it to be like super firm, super planted. Let's shut down this beast and I'll keep on talking to you guys. So I know in my other video about the F30, I mentioned that springs weren't the way to go. I thought that coilovers were the best way to go. Again, I stand by that. But again, on a car like the F30, a car that the suspension isn't so sophisticated and high-end like this G80 M3. Now, obviously not the most sophisticated suspension, but you guys know what I mean. This is just leaps and bounds ahead of the F30. So a car like that can benefit from coilovers, but a car like this, I really don't feel like you need it. And also, guys, coilovers are very expensive. So a set of coilovers, especially a really good set of coilovers, are gonna cost you a couple grand. Even more expensive than a Haas kit, 'cause obviously you're getting the struts with it as well. I can at least understand why you'd get coilovers in certain circumstances, whereas a Haas kit, I just think there's no reason whatsoever to get them. But again, that's just me. All right, so now that we've covered the 3 main ways that you can lower your car, let's take it out for a drive. Now, I know some of you guys are gonna be like, well, you didn't talk about airbags and all that. This thing's so loud now. I'm not talking about airbags because I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not a fan of airbags. Like, I would never consider it on one of my cars. I think it's like a stance thing, which if that's what you want to do, that's totally fine. I personally want to do that on a G80 M3. But hey, if you guys want that like instant adjustability, you know, that stance look, that's a great option. I don't know enough about them to talk about them. That's why I'm not going to include it. But anyways, let's take the G80 M3 out for a drive, and I'll tell you guys my thoughts about the ride quality, because I think that was the most common question that I got. It's definitely a very fair question, because in that F30 video that I keep on referencing, that was my biggest complaint. The springs were so harsh, but it was also because the struts on that car couldn't really take them. They're not really built to be that low, and also the struts were pretty old. This G80 M3 is still virtually new. I only have like less than 4,000 miles on it, so the struts are in very good condition. So the ride quality on this is actually really good. Like right now, going over these bumps, like it does not feel harsh, whereas on the F30, it would have been like it would have been brutal, honestly. And that was my biggest complaint with it, and that's why I would not recommend people do it on a car like that. I would recommend coilovers, but on this car, you know, it's actually really good. Overall, I would say the ride quality or the stiffness is pretty similar to stock. Like, I'll put it this way, guys. If someone threw me in this car and didn't tell me that it was lowered on springs, I wouldn't have been able to tell. However, obviously knowing that I lowered it on springs, yeah, I can tell. Like, it's definitely a little more stiff. Do I dislike it? No, because I like a sporty car. So I don't mind the, you know, the more firm ride. But if you guys really just want this to be as comfortable as humanly possible, springs are not gonna be for you. But I feel like for most of you guys, because you're buying a G80 M3, right? Like, you're probably okay with a more firm suspension. Because right out the box, this car is more firm than other cars. I don't think you're gonna mind. Yeah, I think it's pretty good, guys. Like, I personally like it. I would not change it. I actually like that it's a little more firm. It feels like it handles a little better, but to be honest with you guys, like when I lowered the F30, it felt like it just handled way better because the car was so floppy and floaty from the get-go. Whereas this car, it just wasn't floaty or floppy at all. So So I'm just enjoying myself at this point. But yeah, like overall, I would say I was more so worried about messing up the ride quality when it came to this car. Like I wasn't thinking about like making it handle better. I really only put AST springs to make it look better. I did not feel like the car needed to handle better by any means. If you guys feel like you need your car to handle better, again, I think a proper set of coilovers will be the route to go. But you know, in terms of just the aesthetic, this does the job. I was worried that it might like ruin the ride quality, but it honestly didn't. But yeah, we're gonna wrap it up there. So again, hopefully this helped you guys out. Hopefully, you know, just makes your decision when deciding how to lower your car a little easier. But with that said, this video is pretty much done, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
If you don't listen that much, some of y'all don't listen at all. The same they be pushing your butt.